before we proceed further, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Shravan Venkatraman, and maybe you followed me on Twitter, or maybe you got to know me about got to know about me and this course through someone else. But to give a brief introduction, I finished my college in 2015. I worked at PayPal as a software developer for 3 years, predominantly working on the risk management operations. And in that period, I started exploring the markets because that was the time when demonetization and everything happened, and people were entering into the market because it was starting to be a bull market. And then the next 3 years, I quit my job. I started a business, and I also started freelancing in coding, and also in the markets, I was exploring different things. And between 2020 and 21, I traded the Indian market systematically. I also got an offer to work for Futures First, which is a proprietary trading firm. And after getting that offer, I've been working with them since December 2021. Uh, I work with them on their energy desk. So I trade predominantly crude oil, petrol, diesel, those kind of products. And that's briefly about me. Here also at work, previously I used to do systematic trading in Indian market, and at work also now I am exploring systematic trading. I have 2-3 systems deployed in 3-4 products, and other than that, I also do discretionary trading. Discretionary trading is something that I am still developing myself in because I don't have experience in that. Just 1 year experience that I've been at Futures First. And systematic trading wise, right now I'm 3 years down the line, and a lot more mature and nuanced in the approach. So whatever I've learned so far, I'm not claiming to be an expert by any means, because there are far better people to be talking to when it comes down to systematic or quantitative trading. But through the course and through the webinar, and like already I have put a 4-hour webinar in YouTube that was like a basic introduction to systematic trading as such. But through this course, I try to share whatever I am learning along the way at my firm and in my work in the energy markets through systematic trading. Okay, so that is about me. And so we are going to cover these things in this meeting. I'll first give you a brief intro of why systematic trading, and then I'll tell you what are all the current challenges due to which we adopt to systematic trading. And then I also want you to know about some of the important statistics from the previous batches and also generally applicable to online courses. And then I'll cover about how to approach the course and how to participate in the course, and then what are the requirements, both technical, psychological, and effort from your end. And then we'll go for questions from all of you. Okay, so first we'll get started with the introduction. So I've been discretionary trading for like a year now, year and a half if I'm not wrong. So since December 2021. Discretionary trading wise, there have been like in my work, it's not like Nifty, Bank Nifty. We trade crude oil, two different varieties, Brent and WTI, and then RBOB gasoline, which is petrol, and then gas oil, which is diesel, and then there's another called heating oil, and then natural gas. So these 6 products we trade. The problem is that there are like, we don't predominantly trade futures because futures is like very risky, as in the amount of money you can lose in a single trade is very high. So what we do is we trade spreads of futures and butterflies, condors, those structures from futures. In Indian market, futures are not that liquid from the second month onwards. But in these kind of commodity markets, the first 12, even 24 months futures have liquidity. So we make spreads, flies and condors out of those futures, and we trade those. Because also we get margin benefit, because when we trade spread, our margin reduces for a single lot of spread. So trading these combinations for any single product, we have like hundreds of combinations we can create and trade. And on any single day, we have to choose where we are going to focus on and where the setups are forming, what kind of directional bias we have, what are the fundamentals themes developing in the market, what is the technical momentum theme developing in the market, where the flow is coming into, so many different things to keep track of. And even then, in discretionary trading, unless you have some rules to constrain yourself into to identify good setups, you will not be able to do really well. And even then, you are a single trade away from blowing up, because maybe, that is probably an exaggeration, not a single trade away from blowing up, but a series of trades, because there is also position sizing and there is psychological management of different trades. And then you also need to be on the right trades, and there is a set amount of risk that you can afford. Beyond that, the firm will cut you off or stop you for the day, and you'll have to close all your positions. So many other things are there. But as retail traders, we don't have these kind of benefits of someone else monitoring our risk. We have to monitor our own risk. And I have heard stories, not just from the previous batch participants, but from so many other people on Twitter, that like there has been someone who came to me saying that they lost 35 lakhs in a week, and out of which like their life savings were like 70 lakhs in 10 years of working, and they lost 35 lakhs of that in a single week. And when I asked him how he could let himself lose that much money in a week, that too, he told that initially he was doing naked option selling, and he made like some 7 lakhs in a day, and then proceeded to lose all of that, and then furthermore, and net net he ended up losing 35 lakhs before his wife stopped him and asked him not to trade anymore. These challenges, combined with psychological issues and mental analytical mistakes that we can make, like for example, you can be on the wrong direction fundamentally, but maybe the right trade, and you bet more on that because of instinctive conviction, and you lose money on it. There are so many other difficulties with discretionary trading which most of you would be aware of. That is one of the first things that pushed me towards systematic trading. And then the second thing is requirement for programming skills. So even when you become a systematic trader, even when you want to become a systematic trader, you are limited by your skills, because creating a system is an iterative process. It's not like you think of an idea and immediately that idea would work. Even if it comes from your observations in the market after years of trading in the market, it will still have potential to not work in the long run or even in the back test. So for you to be spending time on an idea that you don't know might work, that too manually backtesting, is a bit difficult and also time consuming. So the programming aspect of things come into picture in that particular scenario. So basically market as such has been seeing more and more algo participation from the HFTs and other algorithmically enabled people. So what has been happening is, if you are a trader, and unless you are trading very large time frames with a large capital of money, and you want to participate intraday or on a swing basis manner, you will still need to have technological savvy in order to navigate the markets. It's not that you have to know programming, but knowing programming is a form of an edge. And that is something that you don't want to not develop, given that you're seeing 30 plus years ahead in the markets. And if you look at the markets in the last 30 years, in the last 30 years, we went from floor trading and retail traders not having any faster access to the markets or market data, to now all of us having algorithmic and very low latency access to the market. And if you can project that difference forward 30 years, you can at least imagine what we can't imagine, and what kind of technological advancements would have come into the market. But for us to keep pace with that technological advancement in the market, we need to learn programming, at least one language, so that we can apply ourselves better and faster. And when it comes down to programming languages, there are so many languages that you can master. I mean, C++ is obviously one of the good ones, which also probably, if you master, will get you a job in one of the HFT firms. But that is a bit of a stretch because it's a long journey. But Python wise, the reason I chose Python was because I already knew Python. But also there are a lot of libraries and classes and frameworks, packages developed within Python just for the sake of financial programming. So Python was a obvious choice. And again, if you take languages like Java, C++, and all, they don't have as rich libraries as Python in terms of financial engineering and financial backtesting, forward testing, all of these things. So specifically when it came to backtesting, there were several frameworks from Zipline to Backtrader, and I happened to read and go through all of the documentation and found Backtrader to be very helpful. So I chose Backtrader. And despite all of these reasons, there are further reasons why you should learn Python. It's because Python is a multidisciplinary language which you can use in any field. You can be a data analyst, you can be a automation guy, you can be a front end development guy with Python. Anything you want, you can branch out using Python. So learning Python as a skill is always going to be good for your career as well as your trading. And after covering all this, so when it comes to systematic trading as the answer to the problems that we face in discretionary trading, the one reason why we should do systematic trading is to free us a lot of time and energy that we rather spend on in the market, captured in the mood and momentum of the market. Instead of that, we can spend that time elsewhere, maybe developing systems, maybe working on some other ideas, or maybe completely something else, not expending a lot of energy day in, day out. Okay, that is where backtesting comes in. And backtesting actually gives us the confidence to actually trade an idea instead of just trading instinctually. And that confidence comes through the statistics of that idea, how that idea would have performed in the past. And there is a catch here. Just because an idea performed well in the past doesn't mean that it will do well in the future. It can always fail. But instead of going with nothing, like you have an idea and you just start trading it, that is worse compared to you have an idea, you verify and validate whether that idea is fundamental enough to the market for you to trade it, and has it worked in the past. If it has worked, what was its statistics, and are those statistics giving you confidence enough to trade in live, and how much risk to put in that idea, how much reward you can expect from that idea. These are all things that you can gather from backtesting process, which will not be available through just your instincts alone. So that is the reason why we choose backtesting as a tool in order for us to go forward in the markets. Okay. The next thing that I want you guys to know is what are all the present challenges due to which we have to adopt a programming driven backtesting process. First thing, so when I started deciding that I want to be in trading as a career, I was following one of the Twitter traders who advocated manual backtesting, and I actually took to it because that was the first time and I didn't think about programming, and I checked out AmiBroker, and AmiBroker AFL language was like, there was no structured way of learning it at that time. So plus I was also like, why learn a new language? Can I do something with already something that I already know? But before that, I started doing manual backtesting only. So I took a simple idea that a friend gave me, and I thought like it looked okay. In the 3-month period, I looked at the markets from that point in the chart, and then I started backtesting it manually for 10 years. I spent 2.5 months, and that single idea, entry, exit, stop loss, I just wrote down all the trades that idea would have taken on Nifty futures. And eventually I found out that that idea was not going to work in the market. How? Because the parameters were so messed up. Statistically, that idea will not stand up, or at least the risk was not worth putting money on in the live market. And after I learned this, I was like quite pissed because you spend 2 months, 2.5 months of backtesting, and when you're manually backtesting also, what happens is you are just focused on that idea's entry, exit, and stop loss, trailing, whatever it is, and not the entire market as a whole. So I was kind of pissed because I spent 2.5 months for nothing. Not for nothing. I did realize that that idea is not going to work, so I prevented myself from trading it. But I'm not there to spend 2.5 months testing one idea and then We are not geniuses to come up with one idea in every 5 ideas that will definitely work. Okay, no matter how much we observe, it is possible that anything that we observe will be a spurious observation and not completely non-random. Given that fact, I realized that I should start using programming, and then initially I started using Python only without looking at any of these backtesting frameworks. I thought I would develop my own backtesting related framework, but then the more I got into backtesting um as an idea, and the nuances of backtesting, the more I learned them, the more I understood that it's not possible to do it on my own. So I started exploring different frameworks that were there, and those frameworks were helpful, but I eventually settled on Backtrader. So the main point is that manual backtesting takes a lot of time that you can spend on something else. Maybe observing the market, maybe observations, maybe bringing in ideas to test, maybe applying yourself in the iterations of those ideas. The second thing is, as I said, if you take one idea, let's say you go long on super trend long signal, and you trail with 21 moving average or some other criteria, and you close the position whenever the opposite signal happens. This is a simple idea. Many people think this works, but if you backtest it, it will not work. It will not show potential of working. It will have 40 plus win rate percentage wise, but the risk reward is too bad that it is not worth trading. And the drawdowns are also crazy with this. But to realize this, you cannot do it programmatically and spend 2 months of time. If you do it programmatically, it's just once you learn the framework, it's just a 5 to 10 minute of work that you have to put in coding the logic. But if you do it manually, and if you have to do every idea manually, and even within super trend, there are like different parameters. Like you have ATR multiplier, you have the look back period, and if you want to check for a different look back period, what if a different look back period worked? And you start checking for a different look back periods, that will take another. Even if we assume we are testing in 1 hour data, and even if we think that 10 years will take like maybe 5 days of work for us to manually backtest, if you have like 10 different variations on that single entry rule only, that will take you 50 days to cover. And on the exit rule, there may be other variations. Instead of moving average, you can use something else. You can use previous candle low, you can use previous hourly low or daily low. There are different combinations that you can use to optimize your idea, which will take further number of days to test. But all of this time you can save by learning programming. Sure, learning programming is not easy, but it is going to be a one time effort which saves you a lot of time going forward. And the other thing that is important in manual backtesting is, many people do manual backtesting as a one shot thing where you test from 2010 to 2022, and once you see that in the entire period it has worked, you start trading it live. Maybe with one lot you start. Some of you are not crazy enough to start with full size. Some of you are probably crazy that you will start with full size after backtesting like that. So I mean, not you, just generally people in public. So there have been cases of that. So I mean to say that there, when you look at the entire data, okay, you are not leaving anything to the data to validate. You are basically fitting your bias in the data, and you're testing across the entire data. So you don't have anything to know whether your testing and optimizing is actually valid enough to be traded in the live market. And there comes the bias. So forward looking bias is basically you see the data around 2021, 2022, and then you see some patterns there, and you go back to backtest it. Okay, that is forward looking bias. You're basically giving the future knowledge to the system and going back and testing it in the past. That is basically going to fit your data to the knowledge of the future. And whenever there is a future data leaking into the past, there will be good results. And that is also why we don't use future data, as in not future data. If you have a data set between 2010 to 20, you don't use 2017 to 20 data based observations to test things from 2010 to 17. That's not how things work. So these kind of nuances, and also if you're trading stocks, Okay. And currently we have Nifty 500 and or even Nifty 50. You take Nifty a relative momentum model probably, and you start testing on Nifty 50 stocks. But then there were several stocks that did not make in the Nifty 50 and got cut, but you won't be testing on those because you will test on only the recent data available for the Nifty 50 and the current constituents. If you have to do it properly, you will have to do it through the entire series with the respective changes made in that index, but most people don't do that. And like this, there are several biases that are possible to creep in through manual backtesting if you're doing manual backtesting alone. And then, as I said, when you're doing manual backtesting, you're focused only on whether that particular entry exit rules work and not whether the entire market structure is supportive of that rule, or you're not observing anything else around this rule. So that also makes it a bit harder to for it to be useful in any other manner. This next thing is basically patience to test. A lot of people don't even have the patience to finish the course. So to ask them to have the patience to test, I mean, I know all of you respect few traders who are advocating manual backtesting. I also respect them. But the problem is that even if you pay for their courses, be it 2 day workshop or a 1 day webinar or even a 7 day course with support, advocating manual backtesting and some simple rule that you can use to trade the market, it will still take you years of time for you to arrive at a specific system with manual backtesting alone. And by the time you arrive at it, market might have changed and the system may not work. I mean, it will eventually work if the system is very fundamental to the market, like probably breakouts out of 200-day high or something like that. But when the more complicated the system rules become, the higher the chances of systems breaking. So it is important that you develop programming as a skill so that you can iterate through ideas faster and get to market sooner. Okay. So the next thing that I would like to talk about is problem with online backtesting tools. So given that manual backtesting is hard and everybody would prefer to do non-manual backtesting, like automated programmatic, most people start with this tool stockmark, and there are other such tools in the market. There are so many problems with those tools that most of those who are willing to bet money in the market, their hard-earned money based on the results from such tools, are 100% gambling. Because of these reasons, leave out the creativity part. Okay, like you can't be creative, you can't test your preferred time frames. Those parts leave out. Those are not even that important. Okay, they are important, but in this context they are not. First thing is that you don't know what data they're using. The entire premise of backtesting with programming is that you bring 100% control over the backtesting process under your control, and you know what goes into each step of the pipeline, right? But if you don't know that, if you don't know where the data is coming from, if you don't know how the logic is being applied, if you don't know whether there are some errors or not, if you can't manually verify also, like most of you, like a lot of people who have talked to me about stock mock, such kind of tools, have mostly been interested in option related strategies and automated, like systematic option strategies. Okay, like selling strangles or straddles or whatever it is based on a particular time or a date or specific preconditions. But if you're using those tools, you don't know how the logic is coded in the background. All you can do is trust that their results are right, but you don't know if the results are right. You will have the list of trades, but you don't have the data from, like, all the data, option strikes and everything, all the data to manually verify them also, right? That is one thing. And there could be many different biases, and it's not like they are splitting the backtest data into in sample, out of sample, and doing proper validation and all the other processes. So that is not dependable either. And other thing is, the list of strategies and ideas you can try are limited based on the combinations that you can apply to them. And when you apply those combinations, whatever you see, whatever you are able to test is something that somebody else also is able to test. And the more crowded an idea gets, the faster it loses its shelf life. So in market, your edge has to be specific, and it also has to be something that is truly unique to your own self. It's not like, see, the reason why trend following worked, maybe turtle strategy or some kind of breakouts used to have a lot of higher win percentages back in the 80s and 90s, was because people were slower to get the data. And those with the edge of having data access and chart access, etc., and those who were in the floor knew that a specific point was a breakout, and they were able to make the most of the move before the move even got to be known by the others. But today, breakouts have the worst win rate. Like 20-30% of the breakouts only succeed, rest of the breakouts fail most of the time. And the reason why is that everybody knows that that point is a potential liquidity pool where breakout is potentially possible. And since everybody knows, it rarely happens unless backed by some vigorous momentum or money flow or fundamental factor. So these things we cannot be very conscious about and consciously know. But whenever there is a particular system, specific rules, strategy, let's take 920 straddle. It used to work at a particular point in time, then it blew up a lot of people's money, specifically in Indian market at a specific point in time last year, I think. So not just that, there were other strategies like that also, which, for example, you can take, there was one particular momentum guy who had a system where he also applied that to options and eventually had a like a 80% drawdown, and that was still, applying the system's parameters with decent enough leverage. But even then it was going through a 70% drawdown, 70-75% drawdown after that. And these kind of things happen because when a system gets known to the others, there will be more and more crowdedness around that system's entries and exits. So the more specific the rule is, and the more number of people that know that rule, the less the effectiveness of that rule working in the market going forward. So whatever systems you create through these online testing tools, they can't be that different from what everybody else is doing with those tools, right? And that is why you can't trust whatever you get out of those tools. Plus they're not very that very flexible in order to create strategies that are truly personally your own. Okay. And the main thing that I want to take away from this is that whatever strategy you can gather from any online off-shelf tool is going to have a lower shelf life unless you can truly personalize it for yourself through programming and do something else. It cannot be bet on with hard-earned money, and you should know that, most importantly, because if you're lazy or if you don't want to spend time putting in the effort, then most likely, even if you have beginner's luck and initial success, most likely eventually you'll end up blowing through that money because you didn't do your due diligence. So if you're one of those who uses those online tools, I mean, you can use it for forming initial ideas, but do not ever bet money on the results from those tools, because first of all, I have heard several people say that the data is shit. Okay. I'm not specifically pointing out any specific vendor, but most of them, they use data that's not really very good, and that's probably not acquired from authorized data vendors from NSE. Probably they use whatever is freely available, and we cannot verify. Even if they claim so, we cannot verify. Okay. But if you buy data that is from an NSE vendor, and if you use that yourself, you know that the data is from a reasonable authorized vendor of NSE, and that the data is good enough to test on and to arrive results from, right? And then there are several things that you need to work on in your backtesting process that will also be causing several different result modifications, but that comes for later. These preliminary things are important. And even when you use these online tools, they've made it like every iteration you need to test. the more you use them, the more you need to pay. And if you're rich, you can do it. I mean, specifically use these tools and make, different iterations of your strategy. But still, how much iteration you can make with whatever little permutation combinations that they have. Even if you do that, it's going to keep costing you money. And initially it costs you money to test these things, and then when you trade them, they will cost you further money. So to fix all of these things, we come to backtesting programmatically, and that's what this course is trying to fix and address. And although I don't claim to be like a savior or any of that, like trying to save you from all of these backtesting tools which are giving you uh, crap results and all that, I'm just trying to share what I learned and how I saved myself in the process, so that you can do the same for yourself, for your own trading, if you're considering trading as a serious career ahead of you. Okay. So before I tell you what we can do in the course, I wanted to understand that many people, even though I have a course page which is a bit long, but it covers everything you need to know about the course. But many people don't even read that, and those who come into the course come with specific unrealistic expectations out of the course and out of themselves, that so many have actually like stopped progressing midway through the course. But to avoid all of that, I'm giving you all a very realistic picture of what you can expect. First of all, in online courses, I suggest all of you to go to YouTube, open any course. Okay. On YouTube, any course, even the most engaging courses, or even take the prerequisite for our course, which is CS50 from Harvard, Introduction to Computer Science, probably Introduction to Computer Science using Python. That is a prerequisite to our course. And you can go to that YouTube page which has that courses playlist and see them. Specifically, see the number of views. Okay. There, every first lecture will have the largest number of views, and last lecture will have the least number of views, and each consecutive lecture will have fewer and fewer views, which essentially points to one thing: most people who start the course never finish the course. Okay. I will show you a sample. Give me a moment. Let's take the Dean of Valuation, who is Ashwath Damodaran. Okay. Let me bring this to you. So he's a very well-known guy. People pay like $20,000 to $30,000 for his course in New York University. Maybe that is over-exaggerated. Probably $6,000, $7,000 would cover his course. But if you look at his playlist, okay, Corporate Finance MBA, Spring 2022, you look at the full playlist, and there are like 25 sessions, right? I'll just take this session 1. In the session 1, you can see that it has 31,131 views. Okay. Still very low. But if you see this session 25, it has 3,504 views. Right? So the class started with 31,000 people, but it ended with only 3,000 people. Let's see this Valuation Undergraduate Spring 2022 course. The session 1 here has 30,028 views. Okay. This is the first lecture. And if you go to session 27, it has 4,953 views. And if we take the prerequisite course for us, CS50 Harvard, okay, so lectures 2021. This is the first lecture. First lecture has like 591k views. The last lecture has 46,000 views. So this I am showing to you because of one reason, that every course has the most enthusiastic number of starting participants, and maybe barely 1/10, like tenth of, or 10% or 20% of people only finish the course. And that is true for all online courses, be it a cohort based course or a self paced course. But in cohort based courses, there is an added advantage of people doing together things and working together on things, that they are always on the same page and they tend to complete it better than self paced courses. But the challenge here is that this course is a programming course. So programming is like learning a language. Okay, so when you learn a language, it's difficult to be on the same page with everybody else at the same time, because each person has a different timeline of learning things. And it's not like a writing course where all of you know English and all of you know basic comprehension, writing and everything, that each of you can pick a topic and work on writing. For those of you who follow Twitter, there is a guy called David Perel who runs a course called Rite of Passage. There he teaches writing, professional and business writing and all, and he charges $6,000 for it. And almost all of the people who take his course finish his course. That is a given. And the same with Ship 30 for 30. It's another writing course. There also people, those who take the course, they finish the course, because the course comprises of few live sessions and few recorded lectures, and everybody finishes them. The deliverables are clear, and everybody does so at the same time because deadlines are set. But with respect to programming, it is difficult to set such deadlines, because if I set very relaxed deadlines, then everybody tends to slack off, and those who would usually struggle only, will tend to finish with those relaxed deadlines. If I set those deadlines, then this course would be a year worth of course. And if I set very stringent deadlines, then almost everybody would stop following the course after third or fourth week, which is what has happened in the last few batches. 3 months is a decent enough timeline to familiarize yourself with the content, but it's not enough to fully master the content. So if you're expecting to master all of the content around backtesting, this framework, Python, everything within 3 months, then there needs to be a better expectation that is set. So I'm giving you the statistics from the previous batches. So previous batches wise, as with all the online courses, since this course is like delivered in a weekly manner, okay, so I share content on a weekly manner, but then people take more than a week, sometimes more than a month to finish a specific week's content. Some people are hardworking, committed, and they spend every day progressing inch by inch towards the completion. Some people slack off whenever they see the first sign of difficulty, they cut and run. Okay, so for those of you who want to know how to set expectations for this, this is going to set you the proper expectation. Less than 20 to 25% finish the course. In the last 3 batches, I've covered like 500 people, and out of those 500, maybe 100 would have finished the course, and they would have gone on to I have been in touch with a lot of people who have gone on to backtest and also start to automate and approach markets differently. And they said that they have been testing several different ideas as part of their trading process using what they learnt in the course. Okay. And there were some who have automated already, and they have been working on different strategies live in automation with AWS and all. So that is also there, but that forms only the 20 to 25%. The rest of the 75 to 80%, they have had several reasons to quit. One, something personal came up, something family related came up, or work got busier and they didn't have any energy after the job or after work and during weekends to pursue the course, and that they will join the next batch. They usually don't. Okay, although you have access to next batch, people usually don't care, don't bother if they drop off after a while. Even though they have the materials accessible forever, they don't start picking up again. The second thing is, I did live meetings, live sessions initially, and live sessions start off just the way the online courses do. Initially 30 to 40% of the people start attending the live sessions. Rest of them ask for recordings. Then since people know that the recordings are available, slowly that attendance also starts dropping, and eventually by the 4th or 5th week, barely 10%, 5 to 10% of the people from the batch attend the live meetings. Okay, meetings in the sense they also have presentations, but sometimes I did general meetings collecting feedback, Q&A and all that, but even there people's participation was lesser. And the unique problem with this is because after first few weeks you start to deviate, diverge from the batch in your own journey, and you will have your own timeline of learning things. So when you're not on the same page with anybody else, you start avoiding asking doubts, and then you wait for others to ask doubts, and then you wait until you will have a doubt to ask, and eventually you keep waiting and nobody participates. And the discussion forum usually has discussions from very few people who are uh, one second yeah who are actually active enough and pursuing the course properly to ask the doubts. Okay, and by the time fourth week rolls around, the first 4 weeks covers the basics with Python, classes, functions, the basics that you have to set up for your progress in learning backtrader and backtesting with that framework. But before the fourth week ends, or at least before the sixth week, many people start giving up or slowing down their progress because they are not able to finish the assignments, or they are not able to spend time or energy debugging through the code. That is predominantly due to one reason. When you're programming, most of, like, let's say you're a Tamil person like me, and you're like me, you have come to Jaipur and you have to learn Hindi. But if you have to talk Hindi, you are going to make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes will take a lot of effort to correct, a lot of effort to learn, because you're not like having a dictionary and grew up with Hindi around you. Okay, you didn't learn Hindi as your first language in your school, and so you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And if you give up at first few mistakes, then you will never learn Hindi. It's the same with programming, Python, or any language for that matter. You're going to make errors, and it's going to take a lot of effort from your part to fix those errors. From silly logical errors to syntax errors to coding related, analytical errors, there are several things that you will need to debug in the process of learning the language, which don't usually have the patience for, from my experience in the last few batches. So if you're one of those, if you don't have patience to sit through those things, then it's better you avoid the course altogether. Okay, and also discipline is one of the most important aspects that this course demands. You cannot, like, if I am trying to learn Hindi, I can't learn only on the weekend. Like, I spend 2 hours in a weekend to try and learn Hindi, and the rest of the week I don't do anything with it. Then I'm definitely going to forget what I learned in the weekend, right? And I'm not going to build any memory of it. Unless I keep constantly hearing Hindi around me and trying to respond back in Hindi every day, I'm not going to learn Hindi in a year, or even in 3 months. That's not going to happen. That's not a realistic expectation. But somehow people tend to think, those who come to this course tend to think that if they spend only their weekends trying to learn Python, follow the course, do the materials, and rest of the week nothing, then the next weekend start the other materials, and rest of the week nothing, and they don't apply whatever they learnt also on an ongoing basis, somehow they think they'll magically finish the course and end up gaining all the skills. That's not going to happen. And it requires discipline to apply every single day, or at least every alternative day, and keep in touch with the programming practice and follow the materials and take the lectures. It demands a lot of discipline. That discipline that you put in for a year or two, because for some of you it may very well take a year, some of you will complete in 3 months, some of you will complete in 4 months, some of you with tech background will complete it in a month probably, some of you with no background will take 1 to 2 years if you strictly follow the course and do progress every day. But it's going to take the time it's going to take, and you should have the discipline to see it through and follow through with the courses requirement and the level of dedication that it requires to acquire the skill. Okay, if you don't have them, then you're probably not going to extract the money's worth that you're paying from the course. The materials will cover more than what you pay in terms of worth, but whether you acquire it is up to you, and it highly depends on your level of dedication, commitment, the time and effort you put in. Okay, the next thing, for those of you who are not scared, who are okay, who are thinking, okay, fine, now maybe this is good, I am still like I'm still here, I have heard all of this, I'm not yet scared, I'm not going to give up, I'm going to try and learn. I will tell you how to approach the course. The very first thing that I ask of anyone who joins the course is you need to put in daily effort. It has to be like that. There is a common quote, no, like you have to strike off every single day in the calendar, and when it starts forming a chain, you should not break the chain. And whenever it breaks the chain, you should restart the chain again as soon as possible. That is the exact approach you need for this particular course. You need to spend every single day at least half an hour progressing towards the ultimate end of the course in terms of gathering the skill. Okay, and as I said, it's similar to learning a language. I have been in Jaipur for a year now, almost a year and a half now, and even though I have been here for a year and a half, I still don't understand a lot of things in Hindi, and if they speak very fast, I don't understand, and I can't respond back in Hindi except for few words, and I can't speak fluently, and whenever I have to sit through a meeting, I'll have to ask somebody else what specific things were meant. So even after a year, it still has me in the learning stage only. So this is also the case with learning programming. So it's better that you set that expectation from this process, and instead of thinking that in 3 months you'll be a Python ninja. Okay, the third thing is, as I said, utmost discipline, motivation and obsession is required for this course. Otherwise you will not make it through. You will stop progressing after a while, and then you will stall, and then you will think that you have material access forever, and then that you can check it later, and eventually it will just become the back of the mind Goa plan that you never get to. Okay, and so as I said, you can't do it only on the weekends. It has to be a sustainable practice every day, and whenever you miss something, whenever you don't understand something, whenever you have to go back to the basics, you have to go back to the basics. You cannot think that the progress will be a straight line. The progress won't be a straight line. The progress will be 2 steps up, 1 step down, 2 steps up, 1 step down, like that. Okay, and the most important thing, as much as you like for it to be a cohort, the reason why I do it on a cohort basis is because it's easier for me to support as a different batch system. Otherwise I'll just make it self-paced and just sell this course online without any kind of support. But there is a support forum on Discord where we discuss different things under different channels, and although not many people participate, I request only those who are willing to go through the course, take the materials, learn from them, and whatever doubts you have, use the forum to participate, ask questions. Only if you're ready to do those things, join this course. Otherwise you are better off buying a self-paced course only. But you have to treat this like a self-paced course and not worry about the progress other people are making, because you're not in competition with anybody else, and it's not like a school, and you have your own journey. As long as you are disciplined enough to do some progress every day, eventually you'll get to the end of the course where you can start the new beginning again, from which point you will start backtesting your ideas, your strategies, and then you will start doing different things. Okay, so that is the most important thing that I want you to take away from this, that you have to treat it like a self-paced course with a support community. I will be there available for you to ask any questions in that forum, even though I may not immediately respond within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because my job timings are crazy. Like, I'm doing this out of passion, but my job timings are like I wake up in the morning at around 3:30 and 5:30 during CME and eyes open to move my stops of the system. I have not yet automated them at my work. At my work, it's not like we have Python and Python based API to automate things. We have co-location with the exchange, and the tools that we use don't offer Python and all. And we have an Excel based automation which is having a lot of lag. And so I wake up at crazy times of the day, and then I wake up again at 9:30, go to office at around 12 p.m., and then come back after settlement at around 1 a.m. And so my weekdays are jam packed. But even then at office, I can take some time to respond to questions, or every day in the morning I can take some time to respond to questions, but you will get response within 1 or 2 days for whatever questions you have. So always consider that in mind. You have somebody who is available to support and guide you through the entire process. And now the requirements for the course. Technically, hardware wise, since backtesting is a processor intensive one, I think you should have at least 8 GB RAM, 500 GB hard disk, preferably i5 or more in terms of processor. And Windows 10 is preferred. If you have Windows 7, it's better to have Windows 10. And Mac and Linux is fine, but the setups in those systems have to be figured out by you. I will help definitely because I also have a Mac, but I will be able to help only with few things. Mac M1 has a specific set of issues which we can discuss later if you have a Mac M1 based laptop, but generally Windows is fine. Okay. And Microsoft Excel I would suggest you to have. If not, worst case we can use Google Sheets, but Excel is better. Okay. And prerequisites before you pay and join this course or start this course, I want you to go through as much as possible of David J. Mullen's Introduction to Computer Science, preferably the new latest version, the one which covers only Python with the code CS50. Whatever you can cover in that course, go through it, because that will be a good prerequisite and prep work for the course that we are going to go through. And time requirement, again, it's a very, very thumb rule kind of a thing. Time requirement differs between different people. For someone from tech background who already knows Python, probably the first 2-3 weeks is going to be pretty much not very useful, and they're going to breeze through it. But for someone who has no clue about Python, they are still going to take, like, somebody will take 25 minutes a day, somebody will take 1.5 hours a day. It depends upon your level of comfort and also understanding. So generally I would say 20 to 25 hours per week is required. Anything more or less depends upon your skill level and your understanding. And if you're willing to put in more, that is good. If you're having less time only, then you will require more weeks to complete. Set expectations accordingly. And psychological, I think I've discussed it enough. So patience, commitment, discipline, obsession and ambition. Unless you're very ambitious that you want to make it in this profession, in this trading world, unless you're obsessed to like be a systematic trader and to definitely break through, it's going to be a difficult journey, because midway through the course, or any effort for that matter, for you to succeed in trading, you're going to face a lot of painful hurdles which will make you have a lot of self-doubt, which will make you have a lot of impatience, and it will test you. It will test your commitment. Everything will be testing. None of the things that are worth acquiring are going to be easy in the acquiring process. So these things are all required. Okay. And disclaimers that I want you to know about. The very first disclaimer is that I am an average teacher. Okay. I am not like David Mullen, CS50, employed by Harvard or anything. I'm not a great teacher, and sometimes some things will be harder for you to understand from what I teach. And for whatever I lack in my teaching ability, I compensate with being available to you as a support system, as a guide whenever you are stuck in a particular place. Okay. And the course says that it's across 12 to 15 weeks, but depending on your skill level and on your understanding and on your pace and the time investment that you make, it is going to take more time than that. Okay, although I allocate materials on a weekly basis, it's important that you give yourself enough time to complete them and not rush through them, because it's not a race. You are going to take some time. It's a skill that is going to help you for the next 30 years or so. So it's better to spend as much time as you need in order to understand and progress to the next step. Okay, the very important catch 22 of this course is debugging is the most boring, the most patience testing, the most painful process ever. It's not, it feels like it's not a very good investment of time. It feels like it's just draining our energy away. But debugging is the process that will improve your programming to the next level. Every single bug you fix in your code, every single error you fix in your code builds up a memory which becomes like a muscle memory of sorts. Instead, it's called a bug memory, which will help you avoid those bugs and spot those bugs in the future whenever they happen. Okay, and like that, there are several things that are boring, but this boring and dirty work that you do in this programming is what will improve your programming trading process also, because through that you will backtest ideas, and eventually that boring work also improves your trading process, because you have developed a patience muscle with the skill acquisition that will help you in trading markets also. Because once you have a system, you have to sit through drawdowns very patiently and you cannot manually interfere. There are several other host of problems that we'll discuss in the course, but basically this helps you develop a skill of patience. And if you're already patient enough, good. Otherwise, you have to develop it in order for you to get through this course. Okay, next thing, the course also covers end-to-end automation in a way that only the pieces are given to you. Your project would be to assemble those pieces and automate a system. Not automate, but at least test the preliminary level of automation, to which you can add so many embellishments eventually. But what I cover is basically Zerodha's API and what are all the features that API has, and how to use those features, how to get data, how to get live data, historical data, how to use the data to form conditions and to like resample the data and to place orders, remove orders, those kind of things. What are all there available in the API I cover. But to assemble them in the form of a system is up to you, and it depends on your specific rules and strategy. That said, I am going to be there as a support guide to guide you through the entire process. So you have to make use of my availability in order to progress through it. And if you're not going to, like, I am available, right? I'm available on Discord, and sometimes I'm available on WhatsApp also. But if it is not a very specific question that you're not willing to ask in public, maybe related to your strategy, you can just always use Discord and ask me anything you want. Otherwise, if it is too specific and confidential, you can ask me through WhatsApp. And it is up to you to use my availability. I cannot say that everything will be handed on a platter, because the main aim of this course, even data, like earlier we in the second batch we bought data from global data feeds and true data and Excel pics to put together a package of data that future course participants can also buy eventually when they want to backtest finally with proper data. But even that data, eventually, initially we started with that batch, and when the next batch people started asking, they started asking if it is clean data. Cleaning and formatting is a process that you can do with Python yourself. Cleaning in the sense, like, the data will have the specific fields that the vendors give, right? But if you want the data in a specific format, let's say time format, date format, and you want specific columns only, you don't want some columns, you want some columns, and you want to create some derivative columns from the price or whatever it is, These kind of things you should be able to do with Python, and you should not be looking for handouts in terms of data formatting, even if it is for NinjaTrader format or AmiBroker format, anything for that matter. You can do it in Python with a few lines of code, and for that you need to learn Python. And before learning Python, acquiring data might seem like a useful thing, but I wouldn't suggest that unless you want to manually backtest, for which case you can format it for NinjaTrader or AmiBroker yourself. But all I'm saying is, it is important that you are able to put together pieces from whatever guidance is available in the program, and that you use the program to the fullest extent possible. Okay, for those of you who choose to come through into the program. And yeah, this is the same thing that I told you. And I will just now open for questions. For those of you who have questions, you can type the questions on the chat, and I will answer to those questions. We have half an hour, so whatever questions you have, ask me. And you can go back and watch my webinar from 2020 December. That is still valid enough. So that covers a lot more. It has a 4-hour webinar, end to end, at a surface level, systematic trading as such. So you can watch that, and you can then ask me any questions you have on Telegram, that group that we have. You can ask in the STA4 batch questions. So please do type your question. Sam, anybody can type the question in chat box. I can help with my understanding. But eventually what I have seen is all the strategies that are posted online, whatever you can gather from YouTube or Twitter or any of that, is most likely not going to work. What would work is something that you can come up with your own process only, either through observations or through data mining. But both of those require effort from your part. Observation as in you have to form a specific thesis idea around different things. And like, for example, you can take breakout from previous day highs or previous week highs as an idea, and you can see how that performs across different time frames, and how you can enter, exit. These kind of things you need to experiment in order to arrive at a strategy that is viable. And this is one thing that I want to tell everyone, that arriving at a workable strategy is not very easy. I joined Futures First at December 2021, and December 2020. So December 2020 I joined Futures First, and I've been here for 1.5 years, and I've been backtesting things since like February 2021, when I got my hands on data that they gave through Reuters Access. And it took me a year and 2 months. Around March, April only, I was able to finalize one strategy which seemed to have decent positive expectancy. And that too, every single day I used to test a few ideas and discard them, whatever did not work. So, and that too, a lot of those ideas were from my observations, from my ideation, hypothesis development, all of those things. Very rarely did I test things that were from online. I did test things from online, whatever was available in different books, different courses, different YouTube channels and all. But eventually what worked for me was one of my observations from the market. So it's going to be a long process. I will be able to give my opinion on a specific strategy's statistics, like whether it is viable to be traded live or not, or whether it looks too good or not. So these things I can comment on, but specifically helping you develop or improve a strategy, that I won't do, because that is something that is personal to you, and it has to be an edge that you need to develop. So I have a limit until which I can support. This part of strategy ideation is up to you. Okay, you can come up with any entry exit rules you want based on your observations from the market, but you have to put in the time to do the observations from the market. I haven't tested in Indian market in the last 1.5 years, so I don't know. But in Indian market, I have strategies that work. I haven't automated or traded them because at my workplace we are not allowed to trade other markets outside of work. So either as in that, in addition with, I can't monitor my code running when I'm at office and I have to go to office by 12 p.m. makes things difficult for me. So I have stopped trading Indian market, but I have been regularly testing and I know that there are systems that work, and systems that work don't work in all markets. They will work in some market phases and may not work in some phases. If I have found a system in the last that worked in the last 6 months, that is too specific for me to answer. Maybe there are systems that that worked in the last 6 months or last 12 months, but I haven't tested in the last few months in Indian market, so I can't comment on that. But I'm sure there are systems that worked in the last 4 to 5 months also. So maybe not trend following, but maybe something else. But it depends on the market phase, right? You can't expect a system to work in every market phase. There will be phases where a particular system will not work. And even like I've been trading the system that I finalized in my products like crude oil, gasoline, those things. When I started trading them, it was around March, April. So March, April, May, they worked really well. June, they went through a drawdown, and July now they are starting to show signs of recovery. So there will be time that a strategy will work, and there will be times a strategy will get you through drawdowns. So I think it depends on the nature of the market and the nature of the system. Okay. Yeah. And as for the other questions, please write whatever questions you have. Please write it on the chat box. I'll be able to reply. Where can we watch 2020 December lectures? The recorded videos will be posted on Google Drive, and the access will be shared with you. And those videos can be watched. Some of them are videos I recorded for batch 1. Some of them are uh, the ones I recorded for batch 2. Some of them are recorded last batch. So all of them are together. And I, like with every batch, I keep adding some materials that I keep learning from. So that is also there. And so I will need your Gmail ID to share the content with you. And the CS50 program has 13 lectures, but only lecture 6 covers Python. There is a CS50 program specifically for Python. I think you can find it. 1 second. So 1 second. I think this CS50 is Introduction to Programming with Python. You can use this one, or it's the same course, I think. Yeah. So you have all the 9 lessons here. So you can use those lessons and start to learn, cover through this, and you will be able to understand them even better. Okay. And the course fee and other details are given in the link that I have posted here. So that is, you can go through that link. Please go through that page fully, thoroughly, and any questions you have, post on the Telegram group. And next thing is trading since 2018, but job and trading different. Can we make a career where both things mingle? This is one thing that I wanted to address. If you are going to have trading as a career, then it cannot be done part time unless you do things that are really very large time frame based things, which people do. Like you can check out people like Karthik Marar and Prashant Krish. These guys run momentum based model, where they do rebalancing every month once, and they just rebalance the list of stocks that they have in their model, and they take entries on the stocks that fit the criteria, exit out of those that left the criteria, those kind of things. And they just do like 5 to 10 hours of work a month. And I have followed them for a while and they've made like 20-25% compounded returns in the last 4 5 years. And so I think that is a decent merit worthy thing to do with respect to trading. But even that requires a lot of upfront effort in terms of backtesting and you know verifying whether it actually works and forming the criterias. But it is possible to have a job and also do trading if you are doing it like uh, trading in a 1 day or higher time frame, and having a job where you just in the morning or in the end of the week you just put the entries and the entries are taken care by the GTT orders. Something like that would work, but intraday trading and a job, maybe not. If you have a job, then you are better uh, you are better advised to focus on improving in your job and getting promoted and making more money in your job, so that you can just have some passive investments and even something like a relative momentum model where you passively put money in, rebalance every month once, spend 5 to 10 hours of effort every month, and just let the model work. But if you want the thrill and like being a trader, and you want to have that excitement and all, then that's probably not worth the time, because trading is not a job and it's not a stable career also. And so for anyone with a job considering switching to trading along with a job, I wouldn't advise it unless you are doing it in a higher time frame. And for anyone who is considering quitting their job for trading, I wouldn't advise that either. I would advise you to at least gather 3 plus years of uh, continuous year over year positive track record in your trading before you even think of quitting your job. Okay. Markets were good in the last 3 years. 2017 or 18 to 21, markets were good. Markets, like anything you touched, worked. And so people got used to a lot of MTM screenshots on Twitter, and looking at lakhs of screenshots, people think that they can do it too. But most of those screenshots are way fake, and some of them, even though they're real, they have come after 10 to 12 or 15 years of experience. So you can't substitute experience with a 2 day workshop or 10-day webinar or whatever it is. So don't have these kind of ideas. Focus, if anything, I would suggest focus on your job, improve in your job, and keep testing ideas. And then eventually, once you find some ideas, try to have a way to monitor them, execute them. Maybe hire someone to execute them for you and monitor them for you, or teach your spouse to do it for you, or do something else, but do not be involved in the trading process in a intraday time frame along with your job. It's not healthy neither for your trading nor for your job. If it happens to be that you start your system or you start trading intraday and you also have your job and the markets are not going well, and that will reflect in your job performance, you will lose your job, you'll lose your money also. And as a trader, it's important to have the worst case in mind so that you can manage the downside risk. And this case, downside risk is too much, so I would ask anybody to not mix their job and trading at all. Okay. You can see some traders on Twitter doing that. There's this logical trader who has a programming job and he is doing automated trading or whatever it is, but they're able to afford that maybe because they have different work timings. Maybe he works in US hours and monitors these things in Indian hours. We never know. Software developers can do anything, and they probably have a way to automate different things. And even after automation, we don't know if the person's results are real, and we don't know what our personality is like to handle these kind of drawdowns or difficult market phases. So unless it happened in your account, the MTM was not real, and unless it happens to you, the experience will not be real. So don't believe anybody online. Just do your own work, and better safe not than sorry. Okay. Then will I be able to code price action using these quant methods? I don't think these are quant methods. uh, Quant is a very liberal term used by a lot of people, and that's not how I would describe these things. What we are doing are like mechanical trading, forming some rules and then taking entries, exits, trailing based on that. It can be called quantitative because we have a mathematical basis for entry exit based on a specific number or item or price or whatever it is. But I wouldn't call it quant. Price action we can code, but it depends on what kind of price action you're talking about. If it is candlesticks, you can do that. If it is breakouts, specific price levels, you can do that. But if it is something like, let's say, 1,000 lot order hitting the market in the bid or in the ask, that's a bit complicated for us right now because that kind of information is not available also. That is also price action that we cannot test unless we have take data along with order book data and all that. So depends on the scope of what you're defining as price action. It is possible. Yes, you can code based on candlesticks. You can code based on candlesticks. You can code based on indicators. Any indicator you can think of. You can create your own indicators. There is a lot of scope for this particular framework. So most things you can think of are possible. Specifically to options, though, option backtesting is not a feature in any of the backtesting tools, like probably AmiBroker or some other Ninja Trader, and even PineScript. But with Python you can do options backtesting also. In Backtrader I provide a hack to do that, but you can also do the option backtesting with pandas also. Okay. Totally new to stock market, can this course serve as an entry point to understand the market and get into trading? It's a lot of expectation from this course, so I wouldn't lie to you. This course cannot be the entire thing that will help you give a good start in the stock market, but supplemented with other things like, for example, Zerodha Varsity and few other books along with this course will definitely help you get a good start into the market and trading. Okay. How much level of trading knowledge a person needs to have to attend this course? Any prerequisite on trading similar to programming prerequisite CS50? Trading wise, I would suggest you to go through Zerodha Varsity. It is decent enough. Other than that, I would also suggest there is a channel on YouTube which is for like just basic indicators, discretionary trading stuff. You can go through, I think it was UK spread betting. So you can go through that channel. I will type that name here. That channel has good videos on understanding the basics of the market. Then you have Tom Sasnoff's YouTube channel. You can search for it. I think it's Tasty Trade. Okay. So that would be the thing. Will this course be equivalent to the QuantInst EPAT course? Please answer this question. I have gone through the QuantInst EPAT curriculum. Most of QuantInst EPAT curriculum is theoretical. Some of it is practical. They are charging 2 lakhs if I'm not wrong for that course. And there is another course by Quantify Capital. I think Sisodia, someone runs it. They're charging 1 lakh for it. And that curriculum is quite closer to what I teach here. And not everything covered in QuantInst EPAT is covered in this course. But if you consider the price point that our course is 1/10 priced compared to QuantInst, and the curriculum is almost 70%, then I think it is much worth compared to that course. But I'm not comparing courses here. QuantInst has their own MO. They claim to offer placements, but I don't know how many people got placed, because the person who took my course in the second batch also took QuantInst EPAT course, but seemingly they didn't offer. They offered to connect you with placement partners, but they didn't offer placement services as such, like getting you an interview or anything. So I'm not sure of that detail. You have to ask them, but That is one of the feedback. But I went through the materials. This guy gave me access to the materials, so I went through the materials. They seemed fine, more like college lectures, properly filmed, recorded, and giving you knowledge of uh, things that may not be really immediately helpful from a retail standpoint, but if you are going to an institution, maybe it will be like theoretically helpful, like giving you a knowledge of market microstructure and all. And there will be machine learning related videos and stuff which you will not probably use. So that's that. Like 70% of my curriculum is EPAT, quantity EPAT, and I don't offer placement services, but I do have like I am working with Futures First, right? So I have referred few people from my course, and they have also gotten a job with Futures First. And so if you are under 25 years of age, or even 26, 27 is fine, and I can refer you. If you get an interview, it's up to you to pass it and get the job, but I can provide the referral. And even if I provide the referral, your resume has to be decent enough for them to shortlist you for the interview. So that way I can be helpful in referring you to Futures First, but probably not in placement or anything. So that is there. Structural pivot method can be backtested in Python. Depends on how you define structural pivots. If you're coming from Madan's course, then you can ask Madan himself. He has himself employed a lot of developers who were not able to code it. So specifically his exact rules cannot be coded, but if you tweak them enough, you can try and code it. But it's a bit probably a bit advanced for coding in Python. Unless you have previous programming experience, it's probably difficult to do that. Okay. Noob in programming, experience in Excel, can you learn? Python has taught considering people with no coding background. Job other fields. Okay. So for Abhi, if you have experience in Excel, you can't learn Python. I think they are very two different things. But learning Python is to be considered a separate thing. And the course is taught considering people have no coding experience. So the first 3-4 weeks will be a mix of major introduction to Python, introduction to programming concepts, and some of systematic trading concepts. So you can be sure that the basics will be covered for you to understand. I also provide references from where you can gather additional understanding of the same content. Okay. How can I enroll in this course? How much is the cost? And other details. The details are provided in the link I pasted in the chat box only. So try to go through that link. It's up there at 1844 timestamp. And trend trader, can I ask a question on dealing range bound scenario? Okay, so live sessions will be, if there are live sessions, they will be on the weekends only. The content for programming and pre-recorded materials will be shared on a weekly basis, and discussion will be on Discord. Live meetings, if they are there, will be on weekends, most likely Sundays. Okay, and they will be recorded too. But just because they will be recorded, don't skip the live sessions whenever I schedule them. It's not like all the weeks will have live sessions, but whenever there are live sessions, I'll be discussing the specific week's content or some new material, or I will be solving some assignments or something like that. So whatever is the agenda, I'll inform previously, like well beforehand, so that you can plan ahead of time to allocate that time for attending the live session. And making 16 to 18% a year on Nifty futures since 2018. Is it good return on trend following? That depends. You are creating, like, you are making 16 to 18% on Nifty futures since 2018. Maybe okay. I mean, like, given Nifty itself has given probably more than that in returns, it may not be that great. But if you can do that for the next 10 years and at scale, that'll be good. but I wouldn't consider the returns from the last 2 3 years as great, because 2 3 years offers nothing. It can also be just favorable market. So keep on developing, keep on working at different things, and also don't stop with Nifty alone. Try trading uncorrelated instruments, which are which will offer you, like, if Nifty is not trending, and if maybe copper or aluminum or crude oil is trending, your trend following methods will work in some trending market, at least, that you will net keep making money at some point of every year. So it's not important that you trade Nifty right now, but it's important that you diversify yourself to trade other instruments also. Otherwise, you'll have to sit through drawdowns whenever Nifty is not trending. Okay. And will this course equip me to manage funds at a capital firm levels? Say, can I use this quant trading methods to manage 100 crore fund? Uh, See, this is like a 20 25,000 rupees course, and you are, if you have to ask if this course will help you manage a 100 crore level fund, that's the wrong question, and the wrong person is the wrong course. And unless a person who is managing 100 crores is teaching you, you should not believe that it can help you manage 100 crores. I can say what I am doing. I am trading, like at my firm, I'm trading 10 lots of Brent crude and 10 lots of RBOB gasoline with the systems that I have made. That's not much, but at our level, 10 lots is a big deal, because since we started in 2021, and most of my batch doesn't even do like 3 5 lots consistently. So systematic trading wise, I've been able to scale up with the firm's money quite faster. But managing 100 crore is probably a different ball game. Depends on which product you're trading that 100 crore with. If it is going to be Nifty futures only, then you're going to struggle, because that's not the kind of liquidity Nifty futures can handle from one particular participant. And if it is going to be crude oil, maybe you can do well with crude oil spreads, but it all depends on which instrument you choose to trade. Maybe you can come up with a portfolio of strategies which you can trade across different time frames, different products, with 100 crores, with the insights gathered from my course. But will the course alone be solely help you prep for managing a 100 crore fund? No, definitely not. Don't have such very high expectations from the course. The course will give you a specific skill with which you can test ideas, validate them, and take them through. And then you have to do manual forward testing in terms of live trading with the very lowest lot size possible. And then you will have to take them live and then scale up. And in scaling up, you will have challenges with the liquidity, you will have challenges with slippage, you will have challenges with execution. All of those things you will have to figure out. So 100 crore management is not something that is in my purview. This is for retail traders. If you want to manage 100 crores, you can form strategies with what you learn from the course, but the execution challenges, that will be yours to learn from, because I haven't managed 100 crores. Okay. And okay. And then mm, what is the kind of salaries one can get at Futures First? Can the fee be paid in parts instead of lump sum? Futures First, I can't share too much specifics, but Futures First pays like 10 12 lakhs base salary. No matter how much experience at the firm you have, even the most senior traders who have been here for 20 17 years, they also get 10 lakhs 15 lakhs within that only. That is the base salary. Rest of it you'll have to earn through your trading. Whatever profits you make, there will be a specific percentage of it which will be given to you. But most traders don't make profits for the first 2 to 4 years. That is like a fixed thing. Very rarely does a trader make profits in their first or even second year. So it's a good place to learn and participate in professional trading, but don't expect it to be anything like Indian market. It's not like, we don't even trade Indian market. So avoid any expectation. It will be against all your expectations. But if you're interested, to know whatever it is and to participate in it and to get molded by that kind of a professional firm and to become a professional trader, then I can help you get a referral and you can give it a shot. Is this Python course good fundamental for data analytics and data science path? So for data science, learning this course will set you up a base, after which you can take a couple of courses that I've suggested on Twitter, ods.ai and fast.ai. They will prep you on data science part, but then data science is mostly practice and less theory, so it depends on how much you practice, but it will help you set up a base for you to acquire any other programming skills required with Python. Okay, all right, I think those are the things that I wanted to cover. I will post the link to the course page on the Telegram group. The Telegram group's link is available in the chat. You can join the Telegram group if you're not already there. I will post the link to the backtesting page there, the course page. Go through the course page and then decide what you want to do. Okay, all right then, thank you guys. Thank you for being in the meeting for this long and listening to me patiently. Let's see whoever comes through, and we'll have a meeting once the registrations are closed. Okay.